Was a girl running in our group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look at Buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
You got to hear it all to put the whole picture together. Because we're going to talk in a little bit about electric. Matter of fact, we can do this right now. I want to get this out of the way. The electric vehicle program in this country is on a push. I mean, it's a push. The manufacturers are pushing billions and billions of dollars are being spent. Nobody ever asked us if we wanted an electric car. Would we buy an electric car? Are you going to make us buy an electric car? That's not American. That's not how that works. Not in this country. We've always had choices. We've had and I don't care if it's the right thing to do. I probably believe it's the right thing to do. I do. We want to clean up our environment. We want to make things right. But to tell us this is what you're buying, a lot of people can't deal with the inconvenience, Chuck, of an electric car. I'm just telling you. You can say it all you want, and you can say it's great technology and it's a great step forward, and it probably is. But there's a zillion people out there, and I use that term loosely, that just won't deal with the inconvenience or the irregularness of an electric car. If my car breaks, I take it to the shop, they fix it, right? Well, that's what I do, I fix it. But the electric cars, you're gonna wait you're gonna spend a lot of money and you're gonna wait all kinds of time to get things fixed. It's just not the same. Why are they telling us? I can understand the big push, but then there's going to be no other choice. I have to buy an electric car. Is that fair? Are they going to let other companies that want to be the entrepreneur, that want to say, I'm going to offer you a hydrogen car, or they won't let hydrogen infrastructure? Are they going to just steer this all? They're going to herd us all into this one corral? Is that the deal? Is that what I'm fighting against, Chuck?
I mean, it appears to be the case. And so that's what we always have to go back to, is the idea that in a capitalist society, the consumer should have the choice. And unfortunately, it seems like in more and more states, the consumer is losing the choice to decide, do I want electric? Do I want a hydrogen? Do I want what have you? And you just talked about how the Inflation Reduction Act, meant to reduce inflation, is spending a bunch of money on electric vehicles.
Why?
Which spending money, of course, increases inflation, in case you didn't happen to go to economic school.
See, but that takes us away from being a capitalist society if the government is paying you to do stuff.
So, but... Right, and so
that's not capitalism.
Well, and not only, and this goes to, I'm gonna digress for the second time here. It's kind of like, remember when you were a kid, the pack of cigarettes was what, like $1, like 50 cents?
Phil, a quarter.
Yeah. Okay, and then what are cigarettes in your state now? Over $20 a pack.
Oh, they're expensive. Yeah.
The cost of cigarettes didn't go up. What went up? The taxes.
The taxes.
There are places where cigarettes are still $4 or $5 a pack. So the government has basically decided you're allowed to smoke, but I'm going to tax you 300%, 400% for a pack of cigarettes.
Because they don't want us to smoke, because it was a big burden on our health organization.
So that leads me to the next story I wanted to talk about was, so the 2024 Mustang, which is it's a V8,
yes.
It's a typical V8 Mustang, it is being hit with a $1,000 gas guzzler tax. So much like the cigarettes.
Gas guzzler tax.
So the V8 model price increases mainly due to the gas guzzler tax that adds anywhere between $1,000 to $1,300 extra. So again, you're welcome to have your V8 Mustang. We're just going to charge you an extra $1,000 gas guzzler tax. This is the cigarettes all over again.
In other words, we're going to make you miserable if you don't buy our electric cars.
Right. You're welcome to buy a Mustang.
I don't...
But that $1,000, just like the cigarettes, it started off with like a 50-cent tax, and now it's a $20 tax. So that's my point, is that it's going to start off with a $1,000 gas guzzler tax, and someday they're going to say, you can have that V8 Mustang. It's going to be a $20,000, $50,000 gas guzzler tax.
Or you can trade it in for door number 2, which has a Mustang Mach-E behind it.
We'll give you a free Mach-E, because apparently nobody wants one, so they keep reducing the prices on the Mach-E. So
nobody wants it.
Why would you want that silly old V8 when we can just give you a Mach-E?
They are are dropping prices on all the electric cars now. Everybody's dropping back on their prices because the sales have slowed. The people that wanted an electric car went out and bought one, Chuck.
Well, okay, so that's not...
They're purchased. The ones that are going to get sold are sold.
Right. So, like, for instance, Tesla is reporting that their sales in Germany were up like 600%. But again, it's because there is a mandate in place in the EU. There's a 2035 mandate. So you're basically saying, yeah, sales are up in places where there's mandates because people are saying, I have no choice.
But people in the European Union are used to being told what to do.
Right. That's true.
We're not.
Well, and that becomes that tipping point that we keep talking about, this idea of there are states that are progressively forward-thinking states that are going to push electric vehicles, California, New York, Illinois, and then there are going to be states that are going to push against it.
I hear stories people in California are going to be moving because they're not going to buy an electric car.
Well, and I don't think that's the only reason they're moving, but I mean,
really,
there's a lot of people moving. And
their taxes are pretty high too.
But so that's my point.
But where are you going to go? If one by one the government makes every state pass these laws,
right,
and the government passes laws that you can't buy an internal combustion engine,
right?
How are you supposed to?
And then back to my original point, though, on a federal level, is that, you as a consumer, they say, well, you can have that Mustang. We're just going to charge you a gas guzzler tax. There are states that are going to resist the electric vehicle push, and the federal government say, well, that's just fine, but we're going to take away your highway money. We're going to take away your subsidies. And that's how they always punish these. I mean, I remember the stories about...
The states will do what they're told if they're going to lose taxes.
Remember the states that kept the drinking age 18. I think Wisconsin was one of them.
Yep.
Finally, do you know what finally did them in? Was this the federal government said you can keep the drinking age 18. We're going to cut you off. No more federal subsidies. And they said, okay, fine. Well,
21.
So again, you get to elect your local officials. You get to elect your state representative to decide what your state. But if it just happens that they're not in alignment with the federal government, you could do what you want. We're just going to cut you off. And then that's what we do, and nobody puts up a fight. So. These states that are going to hold out, like the Wyomings of the world, they're going to hold out, but then eventually they're going to say, well, no more road taxes, no more road money for you, and they're going to comply.
That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to force them into it and consequently force us into it.
Right.
And thank God, at my age, I'm old enough that I won't have to worry about it. Let's face it. You think I'm complaining? I'm sure there's somebody out there saying, "What's he complaining about? He's never going to see one," and they're probably right.
Yeah, and I keep hearing that from people your age. Gee, thanks, George. Gee, thanks, George. Like, it's not my problem; it's your problem. Okay, well, gee, thanks.
Well,
I always say it's like I'm the one that's paying for it my entire life, right?
If it affects the car business, the car world, it's my problem.
Right.
I'm telling you, I'm a car guy. I have been. Nothing else all my life. That's all I've ever done. Except high school. I flipped a few hamburgers in high school at the local Dog and Suds. That was fun. But I've been a car guy forever. And what's going on now is not what I had envisioned for a future zero emissions America.
Right.
I don't have a problem with zero emissions in America. I think that's a good thing. But there's other ways and there's other choices. And there should be choices available. If you offer Joe Schmo and say, here's an electric vehicle, and here is a hydrogen-engined, internal combustion, zero-emission vehicle, and he wants to take the hydrogen one, you're not going to say, oh, no, you can't. We don't have any. You can't do that. You got to buy the electric one. We're just showing you that one. You can't do that. Americans want a choice.
Well, that's why there's going to be all those subsidies, is that you have to, the only way for this to work, as you talked about earlier, you're going to have to subsidize the chargers. You're going to have to subsidize the battery plants. You're going to have to subsidize every aspect of this for it to work. So did it really work, or is it because you subsidized everything?
The government bought it.
Right.
It's bought and paid for. That's not capitalism. They have another name for that. And that's just not right. And to be told that you're going to have to buy... I don't mind electric vehicles. I think it's great. I think if we get the hydrogen and the hybrids also involved, we can have a real zero-emission economy in this country. Our footprint will go way down.
But you keep saying zero emission. It's zero emission at the car. There's still emissions. There's still a coal power plant somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Churning out,
Oh, yeah, and there's cows passing gas. What's her name? AOC said.
But I'm saying, you talk about the process of mining those materials, the process of generating electricity.
What have you done to your planet to make your zero emissions out of your car? You've destroyed your planet. You've dug holes, massive, massive, big holes that are just huge, and they stink, and they're filling up with water now. And then now you got to find some more lithium somewhere, and you got to find some more cobalt, and these precious metals. Those precious metals were put in our soil and in our earth for, I guess, for a reason. I would think. I don't know.
To make batteries.
To make batteries, yeah. Apparently, they think, our government thinks it's to make batteries. I don't see this going. I don't see it happening. Not this way. We got to have, Charles. We got to have a choice. Americans got to have a choice. They have to have a smorgasbord of vehicles to choose from, not just 3 or 4 electric cars.
Well, and this goes back to the point we've talked about for the last few weeks, is that the manufacturers are sweating right now because they have to make a choice. Are we going all in on electric? Because, again, you can't just change production on a dime. We've talked about how far behind
exactly.
the big three is far behind Elon, and they have to decide what's our future look like. And they're losing tons of money on the EV side right now because it's still in the development stage. It's still in the sort of the incubator stage, and they have to decide what happens if
nobody buys one.
Right, we pick the wrong horse on this.
Exactly. I mean, what happens if hydrogen was the way everybody wanted to go instead?
Right.
But no, you don't even get a voice. You don't get a chance to say, I think I'd rather have a hydrogen vehicle.
Well, but my point is, even if we decide we've made a mistake, Ford can't start churning out V8 Mustangs right out of the gate. It's going to be years.
Oh, God, yes.
To shift back. If we even do. I mean, at that point, then, what is interesting, though, is as much as we talk about this, you know what I've noticed? I've noticed recently a lot of new gas stations being built. And that, to me, is sort of it's a weird thing to me to think about, is because I know how, you have an idea of what it costs to build a new structure like that and all the permits to bury tanks in the ground and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
People are spending millions of dollars. So they must know something I don't, because somebody thinks that they're going to spend $1 million on these fancy new gas stations. They think that it's going to be around long enough to pay for itself.
You've got several companies that are not going all in on electric. Toyota is one. Toyota's going pretty much half and half in on hydrogen and fuel cell.
Right. But my point is, though, is that you build this $1 million gas station, how quickly can I retool to have hydrogen, to have electric? I mean, are these guys, again, like I said, these guys are easily spending $1 million on these new little gas stations. What is their intention?
Yeah.
What is their plan? I mean, I think that it takes 20 years to pay that thing off. I mean, I don't get what the mindset is unless they know something we don't.
Well, you would think that the government would want a hydrogen a hydrogen service station, because there would be fuel tax.
Well, and you would think,
and they could collect it right away.
You would think that if I'm building, and a lot of these are along the highways and things like that, you think if I'm building a brand new gas station along the highway, somebody would say, oh, by the way, why don't you future-proof? Let's make sure you've got enough power for chargers. Let's make sure maybe you have a space to put in a hydrogen tank or whatever. Let's put in the infrastructure now.
Be ready.
Before you have to cut everything up to put it in. Why don't we plant when that's not been discussed?
Well, the other thing that Toyota and Honda both are going together with Shell is they're working on fuel that would be less emissions, where the cars that are so clean right now, putting this fuel in them would make them virtually zero out the tailpipe. And that fuel could be available at the local Shell station. You know what? This whole electric car business gets me wound up pretty tight. We'll get back to that in a few minutes, though, because there's a few more things going on that you need to hear about. And these are important. An easing of the pickup shortages that has persisted for years now could help dealers as the spring season heats up. For the past few years, customers purchasing new F-150 pickup or a new F-150 pickup at the Marcotte Ford in Holyoke, Massachusetts, had to wait 6 to 9 months to get their truck due to inventory shortages. I know somebody's been waiting a year already. But lately, average wait times have plummeted to more like 6 to 9 weeks. Instead of a few dozen trucks, there are nearly 100 on the lot right now. So they can just quit with that hoax with the chips. That's done. Trust me, the chip hoax is over. The Ram 1500 is at a 108-day supply. The F-150 is at 97 days, and the Chevrolet Silverado is at 82 days. And the Chevrolet GMC Sierra is at 78 days. This is what Cox Automotive has said. General Motors has scheduled production downtime to keep its truck supply in check. Are you ready for that? And incentives, though still relatively low, are starting to rise. Signs the industry could be returning to more normal business operations. When they say incentives, they're talking about lower financing, no money down. They're talking about better pricing, all the things that you haven't had the last few years because of this thing. But then you had to hear General Motors has scheduled production downtime to keep its truck supply in check. What does that tell you? They don't want you to have a lot of trucks to choose from on their lots.
They don't want to go back to below sticker price.
That's right. They don't want to go below sticker price. Oh, my goodness. And you know what? Here is another story of the same ilk. And it really, really floors me. Ford, another one of the big three boys, halting the assembly line rather than building trucks and fixing them later was just one element of a new approach to attacking quality programs that Ford is road testing with the launch of the redesigned Super Duty trucks. Now get this straight. They just told you that General Motors is keeping their truck inventory in check. Ford is probably doing the same thing, but they're going to call it something else. Shutting down the assembly lines that build the Super Duty pickup trucks at Ford Motor Company's Kentucky truck plant is a multi-million-dollar action company managers try hard to avoid. As part of the new approach to stamping out quality demons, yeah, right, Kentucky truck plant manager Joseph Clasurdo said he stopped production for as long as 3 days earlier this year. That halt gave engineers and suppliers time to fix defective parts discovered as workers began building a new generation of Ford's highly profitable heavy-duty pickup trucks. Highly profitable. At over sticker they are. We would shut the build down if we weren't meeting one of the targets for quality, Clasurdo said on the plant floor last week. This also achieves inventory control. It's a nice way of saying, well, we're not going to have as many trucks, so you're going to have to buy what we have and you're going to have to pay what we want. They just got a taste of this and they won't let go.